Louisiana's hottest congressional race this year will be in the redrawn 6th District, according to a local political analyst. As Sabrina Wilson reports, it's a wide open seat after the current congressman decided not to seek re-election.
I just urge all Americans to remember the incredible sacrifice of so many before us that allowed us to have this amazing nation.
Republican Congressman Garret Graves represents Louisiana's 6th Congressional District, which includes Baton Rouge, the River Region, Thibodaux, and Houma. But now Graves isn't seeking re-election.
It would be very difficult for Garret Graves to win a congressional race with the current demographic makeup of the 6th Congressional District, because it's primarily a majority Democratic district now.
Under pressure from a federal court, the Louisiana legislature redrew the state's congressional map to include a second black majority district, and now the 6th Congressional District runs from Shreveport to Baton Rouge. On Friday, Graves issued a prepared statement saying, in part, after much input from constituents, consultation with supporters, consensus from family, and guidance from the Almighty, it is clear that running for Congress this year does not make sense. It is evident that a run in any temporary district will cause actual permanent damage to Louisiana's great representation in Congress. I sat down with Dillard University political analyst Dr. Robert Collins to talk about Graves' decision.
And then originally he said he was thinking about running in another district. But the problem there is all of the other districts where he was considering running, there are incumbent Republicans.
Given the makeup of the new district, Democratic State Senator Cleo Fields, who served previously in Congress, is running for the seat, as is Quentin Anthony Anderson. And Collins thinks there will be others.
I think Senator Fields is certainly the favorite in the race just because he is an incumbent state senator. He chairs an important committee. He has a large war chest. He's been raising money for a while. He has the most name recognition.
Collins isn't sold on speculation Graves might challenge Senator Bill Cassidy, who drew the ire of some Louisiana Republicans after he voted to convict President Trump.
I think the only way Garret Graves would do that is if he were to get the endorsement of Donald Trump and actually, and actually say, I can run as the Trump candidate.
Either way, the 6th Congressional District race is expected to get a lot of attention.
And since this is the only open congressional seat in the state of Louisiana, this is basically going to be where all the action is.
Dr. Collins says Senator Cassidy has worked to rehab his image among Louisiana Republicans after voting to convict Trump during impeachment proceedings in 2021. Meanwhile, Democrat Gary Chambers tells me he's considering running for the 6th District congressional seat. Now, I reached out to Graves for comment today, but haven't heard back. Qualifying for the November primary begins July 17th.